Welcome back. You are here with our Master J, and today we are doing a comic book review of Achromatic Chronicles Blue from J. David, aka Drunk 3PO. Get J to 100k. Now I'm going to allow J to give you a quick synopsis of his book himself.
Achromatic Chronicles Blue is a graphic novel with over 200 pages that is suitable for all ages. Discover how John develops a unique friendship that is wrapped in mystery, and in this friendship takes him on an adventure where he discovers purpose and value in his world.
Thank you for that input, Jay. Now to elaborate, Achromatic Chronicles is a chunky book. I mean, we got some heft here. So for this to be the first thing you ever come out with, this kind of commitment, 200 plus pages, is really impressive. The book is intended for young audiences. I have this definitely more as a kid book still, which I'll have a few more comments on later, versus like a teen book. Like, right, this isn't really like, say, a Hunger Games or Harry Potter kind of read. It's definitely, I think, more for the 6, 7 to end of middle school kind of age group. Preteen, things of that nature. I think it's definitely a read for that age group. And obviously a great family read as well. Now the story goes for Achromatic Chronicles of young John here going to school, living in a gray world. And everything has to be uniform. Everything from you will follow in your parents' footsteps for your careers. You will go to school. You won't ask questions. You will consume, learn how to be a person in this gray world. And you will be that person that you are predetermined to be. Obviously, John finds a little bit of contention with this, right? He wants to ask, he's a more curious than what it seems like his friends around him are. He has his one primary friend, Fortuna, I think I'm saying that correctly, who seems to understand his plight as she's been enjoying some walks in the woods lately. That's about the closest person who will allow him to go through his excessive question asking. After from some confrontations of school, asking too many questions, not being able to play the music instruments correctly, he gets sent to the principal's office, and obviously that leads to his parents being notified as well. He also has problems with a bully picking on him, which causes him to have to run away, which of course leads to our inciting incident, which is where John trips over a rock and finds Blue. Blue is by far my favorite character of this book. So John wants to take Blue and show him off to the world to be like, look, you can question things. Look, our world is different. But Blue asks John to keep him a secret for his own reasons. So John and Blue kind of go on a couple days of trying to figure out how to maintain things going, while with John having kind of one of his worst days, having to have a principal teacher meeting, again trying to avoid bullies, and it ends with his best friend Fortuna not being at school, and only later to find out that Fortuna is missing. But along the way, we find out that if Blue touches anything that is supposed to be blue, they will turn blue. So there's some bed sheets, a t-shirt that turns blue along the ways. And the last thing that gets turned blue before John kind of in his own self runs off, he turns his parents' car blue. So they end up running off, and Blue decides that he's going to take John to what John has been referring to as Color World. We wake up and we are in the world of color. Obviously, this excites John immensely. Runs into a friendly band of pirates. Blue's not there in the moment, but that's because he's off trying to get some information to find out where the missing queen is. Blue comes back with some information that the queen and her group of pirates went off to Empty Island to try to give life back into this gray island. Unfortunately, no one returned. So the crew there decides if they should go out to try and find and save the queen. And unfortunately, the crew, understanding what the risks are, is not willing to take it. But John steps up and says, I will go. And they're about to just let the child go on the island by himself. While I don't think that's very practical to actually have taken place, I think for a child's adventure story, it's usually the child in the story that you want to go ahead and take on the adventure. So I think within the context of what this is intended for, I think it's perfectly fine. Obviously, John gets to the island, creates some of my favorite art pages of the book onto the island and into the cave that exists to try and locate the queen, only to find out that the queen is none other than his friend from Greyland, Fortuna. And so him and Fortuna are able to make it off the island before getting captured by some sort of shadowy, crazy-eyed monster thing that, again, actually remind me a little bit of the monster from Seven Deadly Sins, the anime. But they escape, everybody's happy, they go back to Grey World, and the book ends with John turning the sky blue with the help of, obviously, Blue. So that is a quick rundown of the story, obviously with spoilers. From a story standpoint, a lot of fun, good adventure, well pacing to the book. As I said before, I don't think this is teen book. I think this is pre-teens, fun child adventure story. You can see where Jay gets his inspiration. Jay's love of pirates, love of the Goonies. It's like a solo character Goonie story with that high seas adventure of the pirates there at the end, with a mix-in of a visual The Giver. I don't know if any of you have ever read The Giver. Most of us have had to read that in school, but pretty much the whole mystery of the book in this very controlled environment where they don't let both twins survive and things of that nature, also happens to be in this colorless world. So it's very much that setting of The Giver with like a twist of Goonies and pirates. You're reading through the book, and I'm definitely seeing where Jay's coming from. I can see Jay coming.
Phrasing.
I can see Jay's influence in the story. I mean, his name's at the top of the book, so it would make sense, but just a very fun adventure story overall. Art, I enjoyed the art. It's very consistent. It's very good. It's 200 pages, and every, it is a little bit more of American anime style, or just kind of, Japanese animation in general. I always get a kick of the Japanese over-the-top animation for emotions of sadness, dread, gloom, things of that nature. So a lot of that is used in the book to kind of further express emotions, and obviously that'll kind of jive again with younger audiences. There's a little bit more comedy in some of how those things look. So I personally get a kick out of a lot of those things as well. And obviously, as I kind of alluded to when I was going through the story, first 2/3 of this book are black and white, so which is perfectly fine. But it doesn't make for a lot of like kind of cool visuals. A lot of the things that we do see in the front is just kind of normal day-to-day life at school, at home, in the car, at the flower shop, things of that nature. So nothing too exciting is really going on. Again, a lot of the things that I liked at the beginning were probably more the emotional faces and just kind of the anime comedy flair that they throw in. But yeah, for my favorite panels and pages, usually I can narrow it down to one page, but I really like the whole sequence of John going into the cave to find and end up rescuing Fortuna. Like how they contrast again these dark and this gray island with the flame and the shadowing of the torch, and how John actually looks, and then how the monster looks, and how they have the monster attack, and the colors that they have from the one necklace kind of creating the protective force from the monster and things of that nature. So I just really enjoyed that sequence of pages. Now that I've read the book and understand the age kind of group that this is really intended for, I just kind of have two critiques on how the book would read for that kind of age group. One, I think it's probably a little too long. I'm not exactly sure what I would potentially cut out. I don't know if John had to be bullied. I don't know if we had to go back and forth with the principal so much. I probably just would have cut a little bit of the front end story out. I think we could have got the idea of what the world's like, how uniform it is, and things of that nature. Probably just a hair quicker to get to Blue, to get to some of those kind of more fun interactions, and then get into Color World, maybe even like a little bit faster, and then maybe have even a little bit more time in Color World, as obviously the color is and the vibrancy of that world is going to be kind of what really hooks in a kid into the reading it. Also, I think the lettering should be a hair larger for the kiddos. I have a feeling that like my 8-year-old is going to have a tough time kind of reading through a lot of these things, because I mean the font on this book is smaller than even like it's smaller than even a regular like novel book. I don't know why I have to do this to show that it's a novel, but it's the lettering's pretty small. So I would have probably tried to increase the font size on the lettering just a hair, just to kind of be a little bit easier to read, especially for the intended age group of what the book's for. But in terms of the overall book, the story, the art, for a kid's graphic novel, I definitely have this in the 8 or 9 range for sure. From an adult standpoint, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. Kind of a couple little critiques where I did think the lettering was too small. I think it's a little too long, because again, as an adult, I understand the world John's in very quickly. I didn't need to have it be reiterated as many times as it kind of was in through the story of, everything's the same. It's kind of it's not doom and gloom, but it is definitely gloom and flat. We'll call it that. And so I understood that quite quickly. I didn't need to have that point driven home. I would have been more interested in seeing more of the color world, but this is just intended to be book 1 of, I think, a 3 or 4 part series. So, well, obviously there's a lot more from Color World to come, and how does the color continue to saturate the new gray town, whatever, new town, dead town, I don't know what we were calling, forget what we were calling it again. But yeah, so 7 out of 10 from an adult reader standpoint. I'm gonna, you know what, 8.5 out of 10 for the kid standpoint. Big shout out to Jay and Jay, Mr. Drunk 3PO himself, the Canadian Bear. Thank you for doing this. I'm excited to see how all the donated books get distributed, and you get this into the hands of a lot of kids. I think a lot of kids are going to enjoy this, and like you alluded to, it's just a fun, good story, Goonie style, pirate themed, overcoming your own personal adversities and being your own hero. I mean, it's a great message, a great story, and I really did enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You know, have you gotten a chance to read Achromatic Chronicles Blue? I'm excited to read Achromatic Chronicles Green. I'm sold that's the next one. And hopefully we don't have to wait too long for it to come either. So with that, like and subscribe, and as always, GG's everybody, GG's. Oh yeah, side note, The Giver becoming a movie was one of the dumbest things ever, because the whole point of that damn book was to hide the fact that there was no color. And when you put it in a visual medium, you know the apple turns goddamn red. It's dumb. I disliked it. Moving on.